Hello, my name's Niranjan, the host of Master of Your Crafts podcast. Learning from leaders who are continuously inspired, passionate, and driven to align with their soul purpose, sharing their gifts to bring healing to others. The music is composed by Rebecca Everett. Today is episode number 61, and I'll be talking to William Glass, a co-founder and CEO of Ostrich, a financial fitness app that uses community and social accountability to help people achieve their financial goals. In addition, William is the host of Silicon Alley Podcast, which focuses on telling entrepreneurs' stories and learning from their experiences. His background is in software sales, leading sales teams at Gartner and opening up a new vertical for an AI startup, Ramesh. In 2014, Will was awarded a Fulbright scholarship through the US State Department, where he taught English in rural Thailand for 14 months. Glass has a BA in International Relations from Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida. Will is originally from Alabama and now resides in Queens, New York. Hello and welcome to William. How are you, William?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Niranjan. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I'm curious to learn more about your relationship with money.
First off, my relationship with money is always changing, just like your relationship with all things. People tends to change over time. And I think the reason why you asked that question is because I've been very focused on that in both kind of a personal perspective, but also from a professional perspective. I work in the fintech space and ask a lot of people that question of their relationship. And so for me, right now, building a startup with a lot of cash going out, it's very much an important resource. So being able to manage it in an effective way, but also use it in a way that will accelerate our company business, what we're building. And I think the other thing that's changed with my relationship is really making sure that it goes towards things that add value versus just, cutting everything out or only spending on, what fits in the spreadsheet, so to speak, but really optimizing for the things that add value and make life worth living. So a lot of what I've been doing recently is taking trips for work, but being able to incorporate seeing friends or family and spending that time. So I've been doing a lot of airfare and hotels and things like that, but inviting friends, family that I haven't seen in a long time. And that's really been the focus, is how can I optimize that? Because that's what really adds value to me. And so my relationship with money is always changing, but right now that's how I view it.
And ultimately, isn't that the beauty of growth, change, and evolution to a certain degree? Because we're then in a space of looking where we're at with it now and how we can change it, because we don't recognize it's an issue until it becomes an issue.
Oh, exactly. And there's all these preset notions, right, that we have growing up, how we're introduced to money and finances and how your family viewed it. Maybe it was a scarce resource. Maybe it was used to control situations, people. Maybe you had an abundance of it, right? It really all kind of varies. I'm curious though, how would you answer that question? I know I've given my take, but I'm curious what yours is.
My relationship with money, I'm going to say bittersweet, but it's leaning more onto the sweeter side, because like life to a certain degree, we've all been conditioned that it is a scarcity aspect, right? It's something we hold on to. It's something that you hold on, and you hold on for dear life, because you can't let that go. That becomes your life force. But in actual, it really isn't.
Yeah, very much so. You're spot on there, right? It's something that we created, right? We created money. It's it's not a real thing, right? I mean, it's, paper and it's in your bank account and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's something that we invented.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have more control over it in terms of how we want that, relationship to look like. And I know I've kind of said that before, but I'm going to go to the space of everything being an energy and a vibrational frequency. So what is the energy to money, and what is the energy relationship to food or people in your life or the job that you do or whatever it may be?
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective, right? And two people could be in the same financial situation and feel completely different about it, which is another really interesting concept and relates to what you just said, right? Like how you relate to finances, how you view yourself, how you view your perspective, everything else that adds in it. Yeah, that energy, that perspective, your mindset really all plays into how we feel. And I think that's something that's been that's typically left out of the conversations when it comes to money and finances, but ultimately is the purpose, right? To be able to drive the things that we care about in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But what got you interested in money to be able to create a business around it and talk about it on your podcasts and other avenues and forms of communication that we have so readily accessible to us? Why money for you?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons. As a kid, um, my one side of my family was really creative. So my grandparents, my grandmother was a big band singer. My grandfather was a comedian and was in TVs and movies, and they just loved creativity. And so my mom naturally was drawn to that, and she was actually an actress in LA and did that for the first portion and first set part of her life. And so as a kid, I got into that, and I was doing commercials and nothing big, right? I lived in Alabama, so it's not like anything crazy. But I booked a Cracker Barrel commercial, and if you're not familiar with Cracker Barrel, it's just like this kind of like country store / restaurant. They tend to be on the highway. It's like a place that you can stop and get like Southern food, if when you're driving, comfort food kind of thing. Yeah. And I was probably 8 years old, got checked out of school for a day and a half to go do this. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. I got to go pretend I didn't actually get to eat the food, which is not quite as fun, but I got to pretend and run around and smile. And I made $2,700 that day. And my dad made the point of pulling me aside and saying, I want you to take a moment, you get to do something that you really love, that you enjoy, that's so much fun. And you just made more money than some people make in an entire month, than a lot of people make as a kid. And that to me kind of sunk in this idea of, your time doesn't have to be tied to money. There's other ways where you can align passion, things that you care about. And it doesn't have to be driven strictly by time in terms of how you can make money. I thought that was one of the coolest things ever. And then, fast forward and experience things. My parents partially got divorced because of marriage. It was their marriage broke up because of money. That was a big part of it. They got into some trouble like a lot of people did in 2008. And just seeing that there's all these real world consequences that we don't talk about that are really, really important. And looking at the solutions that were on the marketplace, it was all apps that let you invest easier, pay down debt quicker, but not really think about at that higher level, like what we talked about, what is your relationship with money and what will make you happy and what will make me happy. And so that disconnect, and part of it has to do, I've got my own philosophy on why that is, that we've looked at, really having to do with business models and all that. But there's just no one that's really focused at a higher level about what do I care about, and aligning finances from that perspective and going back to that why. And so that's really what got me interested, was that I sort of had these experiences that showed that there's another way, but also felt the consequences of not being in the greatest financial position, and how that can affect families and there's all other instances, and people have their own horror stories. But finances is the number one cause stressor in the world for people is money. So how do we solve that? Because that tracks to health and everything else, and relationships and everything else that we care about. So how do we solve that? Because it's such a leverage point if we can really truly reduce financial stress, reduce financial burdens on people. So that's what got me interested.
Wow. The financial sector and the technology sector.
Partially. So yeah, I mean, I was 8 years old when that happened. And then I, went to college and was really interested in like just kind of international traveling, studying abroad, experiences. And so I spent, like after I graduated college, I was an international relations major. And my only goal was to go live and work overseas for a year, just to prove that I could do that, right? I could leave the United States, go to a country where I don't speak the language, and be able to survive and thrive. And so I got to spend a year teaching English in a rural middle school, high school in Thailand. And that was a really cool experience. And then from there, kind of got back to the point of like, okay, I need to be able to support myself, and ended up in technology sales, where I really got my first exposure to tech, because I wasn't really, interested beyond the average, using Facebook and having an iPhone or mobile phone or whatever, and all, the basics. And so that kind of exposed me to this world of people that were creating and envisioning how they could change industries. And that's where I started to get really interested in the tech side, but also still had this desire to solve the kind of financial burden and issues that I saw plaguing not just the United States, not just Canada, but it's a global problem.
Do you feel that this is your calling for what you're supposed to be doing? Why you're here? Or an aspect of it, perhaps?
Yeah, I would say an aspect. I think right now, for sure, right? I think, callings may change over time and adapt. But right now, I do feel that this is an opportunity to have a really big impact, and I enjoy it. As soon as we hop off this podcast, I've got a product meeting that I'm going to be going to, and I'm excited about that, right? And plenty of other outreach and having investor conversation before we hopped on this. So I'm enjoying it, and I don't know that I would enjoy it if I was just doing any business. So I think, yeah, definitely. And like being able to see the impact, that's the coolest thing. The stories from teachers that have been able to start to save more and invest for the first time and realize that they can build wealth. And that's a really cool feeling when someone goes from, I really want this, I don't believe that I can, to seeing that there is a potential and a pathway and getting excited and seeing that energy, that light. I think that is really what keeps me going and is just, keeps the passion there.
What do you feel is some of the attributes that you have gained in all of your experiences that you have that put you in alignment with this purpose for now?
One is like, empathy, right? You've really got to be able to understand that my experience, right? You asked the question, what's my relationship to money, is mine, right? And there might be other people that have had similar ones, but it's not the same for everyone. So I think being able to understand that how we relate to our finances is very individual, from a psychological, from an emotional perspective. And then when you look at the basics of finances, that's pretty much the same at a baseline for everyone. So you've got this interesting way to think about things. So I think that's one of the things is empathy, and being able to really listen is absolutely crucial. I think what we're building now and what we've been building from that perspective is not what I thought we would build, and that's partly because of the conversations, what we've learned along the way of what is truly valuable and what actually drives behaviors, changes, and gives that positive feeling. So I've gotten a little away from your question around attributes, but I would say, empathy, and then, curiosity is a key piece, right? Because I don't know half of the things that especially coming into the company, there's way more things that I don't know than I do know about how to run a business, how to start a company as a first-time founder. Not being a technical person, having been in tech, but on the sales side, not knowing how to build a technical product. How do you get in front of the right people? How do you have conversations with investors? What do these terms mean? I get personal finance, but what the heck is a term sheet and all this other stuff that is financial model stuff, right? That you've got to learn. So I think that curiosity is really important, because that is like, if you're not curious, there's really no way to, at least from an entrepreneurial perspective, and probably from a life perspective, if you expand out, that you'll be able to thrive.
So you shared the perspective of why you're doing this, to support individuals, give them some hope, but you're educating them in that space. What other intentions do you have with this space? The tech? Is it the app? Is it?
As I mentioned earlier, financial stress is the number one stressor year over year, the number one cause of stress. If we can reduce that, there's better health outcomes. There's all types of ways that affects whether we're productive at work, whether we're productive in our conversations, whether we show up with our family, with our kids, with our parents, with our grandparents, with your significant other, if you're just so stressed and thinking about something else. So I think that has a direct correlation that is really, really important. But at the same time, what we've done, like what we're doing in our app, is it's community based. So it's very social, and that's something that makes it's unique. Is that we don't want it to be that an individual has success and that's it. It's really about how can we drive success for groups of people? How can we create community? How can we create a better conversation around this taboo? Sometimes it feels shameful depending on your relationship with money. And I think that just has a cascading effect, right? And if people that didn't have hope, or that just didn't understand that there is an opportunity to live a better life and pursue the things that they care about, there's so much potential that we're leaving, human potential that we're not capturing, that's just not being realized. And I think that is something that is really important, and an important aspect of what we're doing. And on the tech side and with the podcast, I have a different lens, right? It's more about helping other entrepreneurs that have interesting ideas and want to build something as well, and giving them the capabilities, because it's hard. So I kind of touched on two things there, but at the end of the day, it's really about like not doing it alone, and bringing others along.
Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what we've recognized, if anything, over the last 2 years, it's been emphasized even more. It's community. It's being in community is where we thrive. Where we thrive and where things come together, being in that space and getting the support and getting the knowledge and wisdom from others who have spent all their time and energy building or developing something for others, like you're doing, for others' greater intentions.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's it. That's what we're doing.
It's pretty powerful.
Yeah. No, I think it can be, and that's the aim, right? Is to really empower people. So
do you see the shift of individuals who were in this space altering their relationship with money through maybe one or two key questions, and having that aha moment, just like we started the interview? What is your relationship with money? Have you seen that in your work as you're developing this app and going through this process and data collection and all that kind of stuff? What's that look like?
Absolutely. I think what's interesting is that you think of like this big aha moment, but really it's the small little ones. So one of the ways that we bring people into the app is by using something super simple. It's just a spending challenge, where people pick one area of spending that they're unhappy with, that they want to cut out. Typically, we try to help align that with with something that another goal that they have. So if it's weight loss or getting fit, it could be cutting out the McDonald's or whatever that item is, right? That you spend too much. Maybe it's just one-click shopping on Amazon, whatever that thing is, where you have some sort of regret for having done it continuously, and really trying to align those two to start with. And every day, just come in and check in. Did I or did I not spend on this? And the point isn't to shame people if they did spend in that category. The point is just to bring the awareness, because if you're not aware, you can't make changes. And that simple thing, because again, everyone spends money. It doesn't matter if you are the richest person in the world or you're don't have a lot. Like, you've got to spend money to survive and live. So it's something that everyone does. So it's agnostic of, how much money you have. And just that little action of coming in every day and recognizing whether you're spending or not spending has this really profound impact. And after, I would say, usually if people are consistent for about a week, you start to see this kind of like shift, this empowerment. The way that they're commenting every time they're checking in is like, wow, like, I got a marketing email from Amazon about, this free shipping or free item in my cart, and I didn't click on it, and it felt really good. I didn't know that I could do this. And like that right there, it's not the fact that they saved money. It's that feeling and that emotion that I can do this is what's really powerful. So I'd say it's not a specific thing, but it's just that when you hit that emotion and that feeling, and that comes a little different for everyone depending on their goals and where they are in their financial journey.
Absolutely. It's all the little steps that we do along the way that amount to some greater impact and greater opportunity of going, oh, okay, that now makes sense. Maybe I'm drinking, 5-6 glasses of water a day. And over time, you recognize the positive attributes that it brings. So
that's where a lot of people get in trouble. They're like, oh, I want to get rich tomorrow. And it's like, well, let's be realistic. It's not going to happen. Just like if you want 6-pack abs tomorrow, but you've been sitting on the sofa and eating junk food, like it's just not how that works. And you might hear one story of somebody getting lucky or, but that's not how it works. And so I think once you realize that, right, to your point, just drinking the water, you start to notice, wow, like I feel better. Like my head's clear. I sleep better. All these positive effects from that one little action that you do consistently. And you're not going to feel it day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, but after that consistency, at some point, you'll notice a big difference.
Absolutely. What have you seen from the individuals that you have worked with or potentially will be working with in the future forecasting? The emotional relationship that they have with money.
The company's called Ostrich for a reason. People tend to put their heads in the sand when there's a problem, right? That whole analogy of like, would prefer to ignore it and pretend that it doesn't exist. What we see is this confidence, right? That's the emotion that really comes out, is this confidence that people have. And again, didn't hit the lottery, people aren't changing everything at once. It's not these like, we've got great outcomes. Don't get me wrong. People save, $200 plus on average in the first 30 days, but it's like, that's fantastic. But it's the confidence that that's the start. And if I can do this, then I can go save more. I can learn to invest if I'm afraid of investing, or I'm just worried that it might not be the right thing for me, or wow, I can actually start to pay down this piece of debt that has been weighing on me that I wasn't aware of. But it's just that confidence that all of a sudden you're in control. And I think that's the relationship, is that it's seeing money as what we talked about at the very beginning of this conversation for what it is. It's something that we created, and you can define your relationship with it, how you use it, and how it adds or takes away value from your life.
Right. So for yourself, having been in this journey from when you was a wee little one to now, how has that changed your relationship with money?
We're a pre-revenue startup, so we've got customers that are coming in the door that we're really excited about, but we're spending more than we're making. We're taking on capital. So it's this really interesting relationship that's changed. But I think, the biggest thing is that when I first set out with my co-founder to start this company, I had money saved that was for my living expenses and money that was going to go into developing the app that I was going to use. And there was something that happened with a very close relative where they ended up in some financial issues. Like, they didn't ask for the money, but money would solve the problem. And otherwise, there were really bad outcomes. And I thought about why I was building this company to begin with. And it was to be in a position where if anybody else was in that position, it wouldn't be a hard decision. It'd be an easy decision to say, here, let's take care of that. Let's take care of that because of, whatever. Let's take care of the problems because money will solve it. I wish I could say that I did it right away. I did it pretty quick. But the first thought was, oh man, but I saved this to go build this company. And like that kind of like fear of like, oh my gosh, like what will I do? How will we go on? Like, yeah, this would solve a really big problem, but like I worked so hard and like I had this kind of internal dilemma. And at the end of the day, I wrote the check, and that was more than half of the money that I'd saved overall to be able to build the company. But it was the single greatest decision that I've ever made. And it's one that I'm really proud of because I now, have I already had a good relationship, but I have an even stronger relationship with that person. But that was the point. Like money for me is to be able to have those relationships. I mentioned that was what I really care about and have been focused on, is spending time and with people that I love and care about. And so that is, I think, the single greatest thing. And it happened really early on, which I'm grateful for in the journey, but it put everything in perspective that at the end of the day, like this is what really matters. And it forced me to separate my self-worth from my net worth.
Powerful, that, William.
And so that's the best decision. And that's how the relationship has changed.
That's quite a growth spurt. Even in that just short moment of going, this is the need. This is the take a deep breath moment. How is this going to unfold? To, okay, no, this is why I'm doing it. Let's just recap here for a second.
And which decision will I regret more? Will I regret that I didn't have extra money to go build Ostrich? Or will I regret that I could have helped someone that I love and care about out of a really tough situation and I chose not to? Who am I? Right. Who do I want to be?
Right.
Which decision can I live with and which one will I regret? Right. And then things get really simple from there when you really take that time to be introspective.
Yeah. And it's a tough one to be introspective about money from our own perspective, because my relationship with money is mine, whereas the relationship my mother had with her money was different because it was her. So it's a very intimate relationship. And I think at that, it forces us to look at something that's beyond even a partnership, a relationship, that gets in the middle of all of it. This thing that we add so much value to and so much energy to, I think is really interesting that we're giving it so much power.
Right or wrong, we give it the power. I guess it's how you use the power, right? What type of power you give money, the power to add value to your life or the power to let it control you. And, I also just context, obviously in a great place of privilege. So there's obviously, if you've got absolutely nothing and you're in absolute poverty, then this is a very different conversation, right? And so I definitely do want to frame that for everyone that's out there, right? To make sure that that's recognized that you and I just being on a podcast and having the equipment and the internet and the ability to do that puts us in a very privileged situation. But I think recognizing that, and that adds even more responsibility to us to be able to have a better relationship and recognize that. So.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Lauren. like you said at the beginning, whether we have boatloads of it or not, what is the relationship and what is the value that we're going to have on it? For those who have boatloads of it, for instance, do they value it as boatloads or do they value it as chump change?
Yeah. How do they spend it? Does it towards things that they care about, towards loved ones? Is it giving back? I think that's a really great point, right? Like, they always say that money more amplifies who you are than it really changes anything. So if you've got to step on people or, get there and you're not happy about who you are when you have the wealth, then is it worth it?
Yeah, it's an amplifier for sure.
So you've got to ask yourself that question.
What do you believe about yourself? And do you feel that it defines who you are now?
There's a study, or I don't know if it's a study, but they've shown that when people retire and they give up their career, if that's how they've defined who they are, they lose some meaning. When you can no longer say, I am a teacher, I am a firefighter, I am whatever that is. And so I want to say that it, to some degree, just based on that it doesn't fully define, but I think it does. But I think it does define me, at least partially, in the sense that I've got the control, and this is the beauty of there's plenty of downsides, trust me, and difficulties with starting a company. But one of the beauties is that you get to set the values and the culture. You set those North Stars. And so it's the first time in a job career where it's aligned. And like who I want to be and how I define myself is aligned in what I'm doing professionally. And I'm absolutely blessed to be in the situation that I am, where I do have that opportunity. So yeah, I think the way that I define who I am is partially, entrepreneur, but it's also, son and, I'm partner and friend and like all great coworker. Like I want to leave an impact on our customers, everyone I interact with, in a positive way. And I want to be able to empower other people to go start companies, to go build things, to go, live that life, even if society tells them they should go buy a big shiny house, but they want to go travel the world, or vice versa. Their friend group should tell them they should go travel the world, but all they want is a big shiny house. That's fine. Is empowering people to just figure that out and then putting them in a position where they can. Because I think that, to me, is what is sad to see, is when someone has a vision and a dream, but they're not in a position to be able to go materialize that. And so the way that I define who I am and is around those values. So job related, values related. And I don't know if I'm really not sure if I answered your question.
It's perfect, William. It was perfect. Because there's no right or wrong answer. It's to get a sense and a deeper understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. It's a big undertaking to doing a startup, and especially around this very heavy topic of money. It can be pretty intense. And for you to say to individuals, you know what? It's okay. Because I am here to hold your hand through the ups and downs, and we're going to get through this because I believe you can do this. That's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I should say that I'm far from perfect. So let's just, I think we all are human beings. So, as you're listening to this conversation, recognize that I'm always working to improve, as we all are, and make mistakes. But yeah, that's the vision, and that's what the North Star is, working towards that outcome that adds value to me personally, but also to others.
I'm a believer that there really is no perfection. There is just an opportunity to take a detour to wherever that end goal might look like. And if it's very more to the east and you keep going, perfect. And if it's going more to the west, perfect. But it's being in alignment and being congruent in who you truly are as an individual and following that flow, I think is the most important part.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree.
What's next? I know you shared about you're building this app and Ostrich is part of your company. You're building it, are you in beta phase now? Like where are you at with it?
We are, yes. So we've been working with my co-founder and I's alma mater, Rollins College. We've got a school district in Austin, Texas that we've been working with. So working with teachers there. We've got exciting partnerships on the horizon here with some pretty large nonprofits in the US. I'm not allowed to say for NDA stuff, but that's really exciting.
Yes.
If you want to download it, you can go to getostrich.com and we're live. We're working with people now and we're building the community and building the experience. So, still early days, plenty of things to improve on, plenty of features that aren't there yet, plenty of things that we want to build that we haven't yet. But we're having an impact and it's small right now, but we're excited to grow.
Baby steps. And as you build those relationships and experiences in who you are and those you align with that come on your path as you build this opportunistic app for individuals to really connect and live the life that they want to live.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, William, for sharing your wisdom, your insight, your passion and drive to really wanting to make a shift and make a change. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Niranjan, for hosting a wonderful conversation. As I said, we went very deep, and I know when you can leave a guest introspective and thinking about something that they've learned about themselves, you've done a great job, and I've definitely done that throughout this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm Niranjan, and you've been listening to Master of Your Crafts podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and join me next week for another episode. Thank you for listening.